Hello and welcome back to the series on topic modeling and text classification in Python and Gensum and Spacey and a bunch of other libraries, all for the digital humanities. In the last video, we worked on this code in this Jupyter notebook in which we went through and we created a rudimentary LDA model, right? The major problem and the drawback that we saw was when we visualized the data, we didn't have really good clustering. And this was due to a couple different factors, including but not limited to the quantity of clusters that we assigned, which was 30. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the problems. So the key problem that we saw was that in the last video, the cluster words that were given primacy in these clustering algorithm were not words that actually had a lot of meaning. They were generic words like go, etc. What we're going to work in this video is how to take the words that are super common in this corpus and remove them. And we're going to be incorporating some methods that we saw in previous videos on TF-IDF to do that. The other thing that we're going to do, and this is the first thing, is that we're going to start adding in some bigrams and trigrams. And I'm going to add that in right here in this cell. And then in this cell, we're going to work on the code for the removal of the excessive number of words. And so for this section, bigrams and trigrams, I am drawing heavily, and you'll see some of the functions come straight from machinelearningplus.com. And I'll have a link in the description down below for you. But for the most part, I've modified them a little bit. The bit that you're going to see here for the TF-IDF implementation comes from a Great Stack Overflow post or series of posts on how to use TF-IDF and to kind of remove certain words that occur frequently automatically using Gensum and its TF-IDF algorithm. So that's what we're going to work on right now. So let's go ahead and put this right here. So we have a good sign for where we're going in this video. And like the last video, this Jupyter notebook will be made available and there'll be a link in the description down below. So let's jump right in. We've got our data, if you remember correctly, that looks like this. It was a collection of texts that were now reduced to a collection of words. So the entire corpus is now a list, and each index in the list is a text, which is now a list of words. So it's a list within a list. What we're going to do now is try to create the bigrams and trigrams and incorporate those so that our model will not recognize only individual words, rather a collection of words. And you can do this as many times as you want to. You can do up to quadgrams, etc. on down the list. There's really no limit. It really depends on what you want to do. Bigrams and trigrams are pretty much industry standard here, though. So we're going to make a object called bigram phrases, and we're going to grab gensum.models.phrases, capital P there. We're going to pass in a few different arguments. So the first thing that we're going to pass in is the all the texts. So our data words, which is our list of a list of lists, or the collection of all the texts as words. And the next thing we're going to pass in is an argument called min count. Min count is going to be the minimum number of times that needs to occur for it to be considered a bigram. So the minimum number of times that two words need to be used collectively to be viewed by this model as a succinct, a connected entity, essentially. The next thing we're going to pass is an argument of threshold. You're going to want to play around with threshold a little bit because threshold is going to determine the number of phrases that are found. Essentially, a higher number means the fewer number of phrases. The next thing that we need to make is our trigram phrases. We're going to do that by saying gensum.models, once again, the exact same syntax here, except here's where we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to say bigram phrases. We're going to grab the bigram phrases and we're going to index data words. And what that's going to do is it's going to look and see where there's overlap between bigrams and other words that have existed, and then essentially figure out when three words are used to mean something collectively, like the French Revolutionary Army is the example that I talked about in a previous video. And our threshold for this will be 50 again. Again, play around with that a little bit. The next thing that we need to do is we need to actually create an object called bigram. And this is going to be equal to Gensum. It's going to look similar, but notice the differences here. Models.phrases, lowercase p there, capital P, phraser. And we're going to pass in the bigram phrases that we created just right here. And then we're going to do the same thing for trigram. Models.phrases.phraser. And while this is coming from Machine Learning Plus, this is, I believe, in the Gensum documentation as well. And now we have our bigrams and trigrams created, and this is where you're going to see a function coming straight from Machine Learning Plus. We need to create a function to reinject these so that our model can actually process them, and the text can be manipulated back into changing the individual words into bigrams and trigrams when necessary. It's going to make a lot more sense when you see this in practice. So we're going to have a function called make bigrams texts. And I usually simplify functions out for the viewers, but in this case, I think what'll happen here is going to be a little easier to read. It's not going to be too clunky. We're going to simply return bigram doc for doc in texts. So it's going to go over, and this function will identify and reconstitute all those bigrams. We'll do the same thing for make trigram. We're going to pass in texts for that function as well. And this one will do something very similar. Trigram, and we'll actually call end to the bigram, and doc like that for doc in texts. And you're going to see these functions. I think you'll understand what they're doing better when you actually see what they output. So we're going to make data bigrams as a new object, and that's going to be equal to make bigrams. So we're going to call our make bigrams argument here, and we're going to pass in all of our texts. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say data bigrams trigrams. So we're going to have an object that is now going to be both the bigrams and trigrams included. We're going to say that, and we're going to make trigrams. So call our make trigrams function, and we're going to pass in data bigrams. And now comes the fun part. We get to actually see what this looks like. So data bigrams trigrams is going to be the same thing as data words, except you're going to see a huge difference because it's going to include bigrams and trigrams. So let's see what that looks like. So we're going to print off data bigrams trigrams. We're going to index it at 0, and we're going to print off the first 0 to, let's just say, 0 to 20 here. And we can see what that looks like. So it's going in right now and making all those bigrams and trigrams, and it's reconstituting essentially our texts, our list of words. And bigrams and trigrams are represented by an underscore, which we should see on here. Doing this. Open up the whole document. And this can take a few minutes to run. And a good way to find it is going to be Control F, and we're just going to look for anything with an underscore. And here you are. You see public school as a bigram. Public school is a bigram. More, this is more or less. Remember, or is a stop word, so it was dropped. Kind of, more or less. Concentration camp. This is a good bigram that you'd want to see in Holocaust data. Dig ditch, so a bigram here, a specific kind of digging. Drink water. So you're seeing some bigrams and trigrams kind of coming out. So you're seeing a lot that might not necessarily be what you'd want to see of a sudden. So all of a sudden is probably the phrase. Let's change the threshold just a little bit here. See if that actually gets us fewer phrases. And again, this is taking a second just to run. And remember, in machine learning, trial and error, especially when it comes to NLP, is the name of the game. Play around with the hyperparameters and see if you get better or worse results. So I'm seeing kind of actually very, very similar. We're going to leave this as is and go ahead and move forward. So we now have, as you can tell from this output, a reconstituted text now, still a list of words, but now instead of being a collection of a whole bunch of different individual words, you have bigrams and trigrams added into the mix. So let's scroll all the way down, because this is an entire document. Probably shouldn't have printed off the whole thing. And let's start working with our way of implementing Gensum and TF-IDF to remove frequently occurring words. Remember, this was our big problem, was that there were a lot of words that didn't necessarily mean anything important for topics, and they were forcing the algorithm to kind of put these words in a high priority. So we're going to do a fun little solution to get rid of them. And this is by no means perfect. One of the major drawbacks to this method is that sometimes important words will be left out, but these important words occur within a certain threshold of frequency in the entire corpus. Again, this is going to require a little bit of trial and error. So we're going to say from gensum.models import TF-IDF. TF-IDF, there we go. And that's going to allow us to use the TF-IDF algorithm that we saw in the previous part of this series. And just like down here, we're going to essentially initiate this exact line of code, but with one major difference. Instead of calling the all texts, we're going to call our data underscore bigrams underscore trigrams. And we're going to comment this out now, because what we're about to do is going to be completely different, and it's going to create for us a really different dictionary. So we're going to make an object called text, and that's going to be equal to corpora. We're going to make an object called texts, and this is going to allow us to make this a little bit simpler going forward. We're going to say bigrams underscore trigrams, and we're just going to convert that into a single object called texts so that we don't have to keep on repeating this over and over again. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to say corpus is going to be equal to, we're going to have a list. We're going to say id to word dot doc to bow. So it's going to say convert all these documents into a bag of words, text. We're going to pass in each of the texts for text and text. And that's going to give us a corpus. Now let's go ahead and print off corpus 0. Let's just 0 to 20. And you'll see what this looks like. Not scriptable. Oh, that's why. There we are. Put it inside the index, and this is what it's going to look like now. It's going to look like just a list of numerical bags of words that we saw before that contains a couple different things, including the item frequency. Okay, and that data is what we need moving forward. So what we're going to say now is TF-IDF. We're going to make an algorithm, or make our TF-IDF model, TF-IDF model, and we're going to pass in corpus, and we're going to pass in our ID to word, that dictionary. So that's going to create for us the TF-IDF model that we saw in a previous video. Now we're going to create an object here called low value, and this is going to be equal to 0.03. I played around with these numbers, and you're going to see it used in just a second, and I found that this threshold was pretty good for these documents. We're going to make an empty object called words. That's going to be equal to just an empty list. And then we're going to say words missing in TF-IDF equal to an empty list. Now, I'm going to go through this bit a little quickly because I'm less concerned about the code here, and I'm more concerned about with the output of the code. And if people really are curious, I can go through and help explain this, and I'm actually just going to copy and paste it in because it's not worth the time to actually go through and talk about this in depth. Essentially what this does, and I'm going to provide the Stack Overflow link to it in the description down below, is it goes through and it looks for words that occur with an X threshold or an N threshold. So that's going to be our low value here. And if a word occurs with that frequency in all of the corpus, then it's going to presume that it's so ubiquitous, it occurs so frequently, that it doesn't actually lend a lot of value to the clustering algorithm. Again, the problem with this is that it's going to drop out some words that might be considered in a corpus to be very important. And you can check to see which words are being dropped, and then cultivate a new list by manually removing the words that you would consider valuable. Again, I can explain all this better if there's interest, but that's essentially what it's doing. And then what this bit is doing is the words that occur everywhere in every single text, we're going to drop those entirely. And what this allows for us to do is to have a new corpus object that will that'll essentially have all those words removed. And what you're going to see now going forward, when we run this exact same code that we did before, we're going to create a new model where those words are not in there. So those words that occur very frequently are now going to be removed from our model, and we're going to visualize it right now. I might have to zoom out, and voila. Oh, there we are. Voila. Now you have what looks like a much better clustering of topics. We don't see essentially just 10 topics and everything else ignored. We actually see 30 topics mapped out. So what do these topics look like? Well, let's take a look at this visualization here. We can see that topic number 3 and topic number 7 overlap by a little bit right here. This is what this overlap indicates. And if we look at that, we can examine kind of the top words, the words that occur most frequently in these documents. And we can see possibly why. These look like they are dealing, these two clusters deal with, these two topics deal with familial matters, specifically connected to some kind of camp or barracks. And this would make sense given that these are oral testimonies in which family members are detailing not just their own personal experiences with the Holocaust, but those of their family members. Notice how in cluster 7 we have mother, and we can see also when we click on mother, where else it is appearing with as a keyword. That's in topic 13. But we also see brother. And this is really where you're seeing this familial aspect kind of come out. 7 is the only topic that really deals with fathers. So I would make the argument that that 7 is really going to be your close familial cluster with some overlap between 3 and a few others. What makes 3 unique? Well, we've got camp, but as you might expect, camp is a word frequently found in a couple different clusters, but it's specifically a kind of camp. And again, I'm going through and reviewing this data in real time right now. So it's dealing with camp in a very specific context. Again, you'd have to play around with this a little bit. I'm going to include this in the Jupyter Notebook so you too can kind of explore this visualization. If we look at another cluster, let's pick 2 for example, because camp appears here as well. We're dealing with something that is a bit more maybe militaristic. Truck is coming up as a term, American ship. So maybe a topic dealing with something kind of with regards to military movement. And this is one of the drawbacks to an LDA approach, is that you as the historian or the researcher have to look at this list of terminology and come up with some kind of a topic name. What does all this mean? And if what you're seeing doesn't really represent a good topic, then you maybe want to consider adjusting some of your hyperparameters. Maybe consider adjusting how many passes you're doing. Maybe consider reducing the number of topics from 30. Maybe that's too many. Let's try 15 and see what happens there. It comes down to trial and error to look at the results and see if what you're seeing is good clustering. Should you have more? Should you have fewer topics? And eventually you'll just get a good sense for when to adjust which hyperparameter. And it also depends on the research that you're trying to do and the purpose of the topics that you're trying to generate. But essentially, this is how you generate topics in Python. And this is a method for really kind of, if you're dealing with documents that aren't clustering well, quickly generating a good set of removal words. And again, like I said, this is going to have a problem because you're going to have some words that are removed that are important. And just for argument's sake, let's drop the number of clusters again to 7. And you'll notice that this will be a little bit quicker to visualize and see what we're dealing with. When we drop it down to 7, we're seeing our trigrams come into play here, or in this case, a quadgram. We're seeing document, transcript, interview coming out in number 7. And that's actually clustering not based on, on the text. That's actually a clustering occurring because of how the textual data was formatted and things like that. So cluster number 1, dealing with issues of, it looks like ghetto is coming out, but that's coming out in a couple different ones. Again, this might be our familial cluster. It looks like brother is here, mother's here, husband's here, and a few different ones. But again, play around with it and get used to it. As you can tell, ghetto is top for number 2, so that would be considered probably your cluster most dealing with ghetto. And in fact, if we click on ghetto, or if we hover over it, you can see that ghetto is used more in cluster 2 than in any other of these clusters. Again, play around with it and you'll get a better sense of how this works. I know I've rambled a little bit, but this is going to wrap up the LDA portion of this series, and we're going to move on next to text classification. We're going to see where text classification might be more useful as opposed to either a TF-IDF approach or an LDA topic modeling approach.